Astonishing new reporting today showing just how lax Trump's top national security advisors have been with classified information, allowing a journalist a front row seat to real-time military planning. Atlantic writer Jeffrey Goldberg details how Trump's own national security advisor, Michael Waltz, added Goldberg to a group chat on the messaging app Signal. The chat included Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio as they planned an attack on Houthi rebels.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
I'm going to be responsible here and not disclose the things that I read and saw. I will describe them to you. The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack. The whole thing is just very flummoxing to me because I haven't seen this kind of unserious behavior before. And, you know, and the Secretary of Defense, all due respect, in that presentation seems like a person who's unserious and is trying to deflect from the fact that he participated in a conversation on an unclassified commercial messaging app that he probably shouldn't have participated in.
I mean, dogs. Wow, wow, wee, wow, that is embarrassing. I mean, let me just start with this clip of our Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, from just very recently in the Oval Office. Already did not age well.
If it was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Correct.
For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them, which means that individual and the others associated with them have been passing around through unsecure networks information, sources and methods of people on the ground, covers compromised in real time.
Yes.
This is a real deal, full-blown national security scandal.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
I mean, they were doing war plans. Can we go back for a second just to the footage of the three key players in this photo, Vance and Rubio and Hegseth? I wouldn't trust these dudes to pick up the kegs for the frat party properly. I mean, look at them. Look at them right now. Look at their faces. All of them kind of have an vibe. And again, that clip of Pete Hegseth saying that we looked like fools. Even in that clip, he's wearing, which he wears every day now, a red, white, and blue American flag pocket square in his suit jacket. Like he's literally cosplaying patriotism. You're the defense secretary. You don't need to try that hard anymore, buddy. What would be better if instead of the wardrobe choices, you kept our national security secrets, I don't know, secret. Maybe. In the confined rooms they're supposed to be where cell phones aren't even allowed in, let alone being in a Signal chat, basically just a glorified WhatsApp chat. That seems like it would have been the group chat of a volleyball team. I mean, they literally used fire emojis to say all systems go on an attack of territory. This is really bad. They got very lucky they had a serious journalist in there, but it's really bad. They invited the dude in. Maybe they thought just any JG could be welcome in there, possibly. Aside from the fact that they should never be having this conversation with a journalist in there or without a journalist in there casually on their phones. There are also current and former administration officials in the chat, which also is not kosher. I mean, we always joke the Trump administration is so stupid it's dangerous, but this time they've very much outdone themselves in a way that would make Veep look like they jumped the shark.
And this, of course, is, details of war plans. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about here, about a military operation, are about as sensitive as things get. So this was a major leak. Fortunately, it was leaked to an American citizen, and while he might be considered an enemy of the administration in some quarters, he's certainly not an enemy of the United States, and he did not disclose anything very sensitive, fortunately. I guess what happened is that this writer, Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, was in the contacts file of Mike Waltz, who inadvertently included him on an email chain and from the Signal application. and out the thing went.
Just a reminder, Pete Hegseth used to work at Fox News like earlier this year, and he wasn't even the main guy. He was more like the last-minute sit-in for Brian Kilmeade's spot on Fox and Friends when Kilmeade was stuck in traffic. It's not normally what you'd think. That's the guy to run all of the military of the United States of America. But he said nice stuff about Trump, and he's got questionably white supremacist tattoos, so, there's also those added benefits. Somehow he parlayed that Fox gig into a job overseeing military strikes for the Trump administration. I mean, that tracks, really. It tracks in this very sad timeline we are living in, some weird alternate version of reality. But not before Hegseth, by the way, managed to, of course, after stumbling into this job, already accidentally leak classified intel to whoever happened to be in his WhatsApp group chat that day, basically. So let's see how Pete Hegseth's former coworker at Fox News is trying to spin this absolute disaster of a national security breach. I'm sure they're going to find a positive.
It is incredibly concerning that this information would be shared over the Signal app with the journalist included. But the bigger takeaway for me is it's an insight, a transparent insight into the thought process and dialogue of our national leaders. If you look at the actual content of what was reported, if you look at how they discuss potential strikes on Houthis in Yemen, what you will see is dialogue between Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Stephen Miller, Tulsi Gabbard, and many more, in a very collaborative, open, honest, team-based attempt to come to the right decision after years of secrecy and incompetence. If you read the content of these messages, I think you'll come away proud that these are the leaders making these decisions in America.
No, Will. Expectations were already rock bottom, and yet somehow we are still shocked. Everyone should still be shocked at this. I mean, kudos to you for managing to polish a full-blown disaster with that much confidence. I'm sure your MAGA audience is already sprinting to Twitter to defend this like their lives depend on it. But of course, we all know the meltdown you and everybody around you would be having if this exact same thing happened under Biden. You personally would have been live on Fox in a red alert banner frenzy. But what an attempt at spin. And you got to admit, we all are thinking what he was thinking, but that's not a positive thing. I'm a little stunned that there wasn't any racist remarks happening in this text thread, or people joking around about the text thread and being super flippant about potentially taking people's lives or attacking our enemy interests abroad. But that's not a compliment. That too is a negative, that we would even think that that would be the conversation. So the fact that they weren't also being disrespectful-ish, I mean, the fire emojis are pretty borderline, I'd say, but the fact that they didn't say something horrendous, and they would have if the reporter did not, if Mr. Goldberg didn't take himself out of the Signal group just out of respect. It's also just mind-boggling that nobody, while sending war plans, literal directives for an impending attack, didn't even click and check and see who's in this thread, just make sure I'm comfortable sharing it with everybody. I check who's in a thread if I'm about to share a potentially embarrassing piece of information about myself or something I did over the weekend, or if there's a girl I like in the chat and maybe I want to make sure I change my language a little. But for bombing people, for national security secrets, they don't even look who they are sending these very detailed in advance plans to, including weapons and strategies and timing of all of it. If this was hacked by anybody with malintent, it would be incredibly grave danger to our troops. Our national security would be very directly at risk, and that's the seriousness this team is taking. But again, it'll be spun perfectly. And also, when you guys all run to defend this, somebody should tell Trump about it, because based on his face, he looked shook.
Some of your top cabinet officials and aides have been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective, because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
I'm sorry, they did what? Nobody told me. Nobody tells me anything. No one tells me anything these days. I'm kind of left out of a lot of the details. I'm just the guy that does the squiggles on the things. That's all. Whatever, man. The wildest part is knowing this will, of course, get swept under the rug by Trump, by his loyalists, and by the entire right-wing media machine. You've got Will Cain out here acting like we should be impressed that military operations are being coordinated through a glorified group text. Meanwhile, Trump is using the breach as an excuse to go after the journalist, of course, who, through no fault of his own, stumbled into a chat room full of classified intel happening live and in real time before an attack. By tomorrow, they'll probably be on air spinning this as some kind of genius move from Team Trump. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they start calling it a strategic leak. That's how broken the spin cycle is. And honestly, I've never enjoyed doing my laundry. I'm Ben Glebe for Rebel HQ. You can subscribe to my podcast Last Week on Earth for much more, including this week. Comedian Sam J and I talk about everything that happened during this weird, wild world.